That's wonderful.
All congratulations goes to the wife. We were in the hospital for 28 minutes from check-in to delivery.
Wow.
Wow, that's remarkable.
So
That's real fast.
yeah.
Wow.
All praise goes to the wife. Again, congratulate the wifey. But yes, he is healthy, eating, sleeping mostly. As good as a newborn can. So
28
That's great.
he will probably be joining us in about an hour when my daughter starts bedtime. So
nice. Do they have like a book of world records for like that?
It's got to be.
I guess. I don't know. I mean, her labor was not 28 minutes.
Okay.
Her labor was like 4 hours, but still,
Rob,
that's
this is
pretty short.
Rob, I was going to tell you that when I had my daughter almost 35 years ago, mine was very quick. And the doctor told me that if I ever had a second child, that he would put me in the hospital a week before to make sure. And then he said, I almost delivered her in Kroger. So sometimes when they're ready to come, they are ready to come.
Yeah.
Sister was born in a car on the way to the hospital.
Really?
Like Jeanette, your sister?
Yeah.
Oh, God.
That's crazy. What do you do? Do you still just go to the hospital and you're like, hey, I have this baby now?
Once I got to the hospital, it was about 30 minutes later that I delivered. And the delivery nurses told me not to push. And I said, my doctor told me to push. So that's who I'm listening to.
Yeah. Yeah, we definitely have a quorum. Yeah, we have a quorum. If we should give people a couple more minutes to wait till 6:05 or we're waiting for Olivia. Todd, is this Ernest's last meeting? Was Ernest's last meeting? Or not Ernest, sorry. Melvin, I'm so sorry.
This would be Melvin's last official meeting, yeah.
So maybe we should wait for Melvin just in case he pops on, but we'll definitely
7 members of the public currently.
Okay.
Formally, hello to Laura and Jessica. I think this is the first time we've met. Hi.
Hey. Hi, Robert.
Todd, is the Hannah Rez, is that the intern?
Yeah, Hannah Reese is our intern. Yep.
Cool. We haven't spoken yet, but I think I recognize the name.
Todd, do you know what channel this is normally broadcast on? This is normally broadcast on a local C-SPAN. Is that correct?
One with the television. He would know that answer if he's listening, but yeah, isn't it channel 10? I don't know for sure.
Sounds right. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't hear you very well. You
Hey,
sound
Todd.
kind of muffled.
Hi, Robert. Yeah, this is actually this is one of the meetings that is streamed on our Boxcast streaming option and streamed to the Facebook and Twitter site, and then it's uploaded for rebroadcast on TV10 at a later time.
Okay.
And charlottesville.gov/streaming has those options as well.
Thank you, sir.
All right, y'all. Well, it's 6:05, so I'm gonna go ahead and call the meeting to order. Todd, would you lead us through our roll call?
Yeah, I'm gonna just go through a roster. So if you can just say that you're here when I call your name, that would be really helpful. And so first I'll do Chair and Vice Chair Chantel.
Here.
Sue,
Here.
Jeanette,
Here.
Phoebe, Ernest,
Here.
Olivia, Melvin, Jessica,
Here.
Laura,
Here.
Catherine. And I don't have to say last name now because we only have one Catherine.
Oh, I was wondering if that was my name you just said. Yes, I'm here.
Yeah, sorry. My audio is bad sometimes. Andrew,
Here.
Anne,
Here.
Matthew, Lindell,
Here.
Robert,
Here.
and that's it.
All right. Thank you so much, Todd. We'll then go into our mission. And also, Todd, I forgot that it would be nice when we get to the matters by the public if you can just explain how we're going to do it this time around. And okay. So we'll move on to the mission. Reading recited by all of us is going to be very awkward, but that's okay. So mission is to act as a strong advocate for
Justice
and equal
and equal
opportunity
opportunity
by
by providing
citywide
citywide leadership and
and
guidance
guidance in the
the
area
area of civil rights.
Civil.
Awesome. I'm never gonna not do that because I love awkward moments. All right. Todd, could you go ahead and kind of explain some of how we're gonna do the matters by the public this time around?
Sure thing. So for those of you who are in attendance, thanks for joining us. If you wish to speak during matters of the public, you can use the raise hand function. I'll sort of on paper over here keep track of who raised their hand first, and we'll go in that order. And the other thing is if people are following us on Facebook Live or other social media, Twitter, we're not monitoring those chats right now. So if you do want to make comment and have it as part of this meeting, what you would need to do is go to the calendar on the city's website, register for the Zoom meeting. It will send you an invite, and then you will be you'll show up as an attendee, and you can either do that by phone or computer, and then raise your hand if you're on the computer, or hit, I believe it's star, is it star 6?
Star 9.
Star 9, sorry. Star 9, if you want to raise your hand if you're on the phone, and we should be able to see that, okay?
Thanks, Todd. So with that, are there any comments from folks in the public? If you would like to say something, just raise your hand, and then Todd, or I guess Joe, will unmute you so you can share your comments. All right.
No raised hands at present. We have 6 attendees.
All right. So if there's no more public comments, I'm going to go ahead and close that out. Any commission response to matters by the public? Obviously not, unless you have comments on the silence. All right, so we can go ahead to the minutes. We only have one minutes from our regular meeting to potentially be approved. If folks are okay with approving the minutes from the July 16, 2020 regular meeting, if someone could put forth a motion. Have comments about it?
Yes, I do. There's a couple of typographical errors in it, but Todd, I'll go back through it again and send that to you. But I move that we accept the minutes as written.
Seconded.
All right. Todd is going to handle our vote.
Yep, so we'll, much the same way we did attendance, I'll just go name by name, starting with, I'll skip Chantel because she's the tiebreaker, and start with Sue. Sue, are you there?
Looks like
Dropped off.
Okay, come back. Jeanette,
Approve.
And Ernest,
Approve.
Jessica,
Approved.
Laura,
Approved.
Catherine,
Approve.
Andy. Andy still with us?
It didn't unmute. Anyway, yes, approved.
Okay. Anne,
Yes.
let's see, and then Rob.
I was not there, so I will just abstain.
Okay.
You didn't ask me, Todd, but I approve.
What's that?
I don't think I heard my name, but I approve
I
anyway.
didn't hear it
Oh,
either.
thanks. I forgot to, I skipped right over you. I apologize.
It's okay.
I think, and I don't believe we have any new attendees. I don't think Phoebe, Olivia, Melvin, or Matthew have joined us since we took attendance.
Okay.
And if they have, please speak up.
Yeah, I'm not. All right. Thanks, Todd. Do you want to read back out the tally, like what the number is, or?
Sure. So we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 approved and 1 abstention.
Awesome. Thank you very much. So we'll go ahead and post the minutes from the July 16, 2020 regular meeting. So moving on to our business matters. There's a lot in our packet this evening. Most of that is related to the prep for the joint work session with City Council. And I really want to thank Todd and Sue, Lindell, and others for all the work that we've done, pulling that together. Allison Davies is here. And Allison, I don't want to waste your time. So with the business matters section, I'm wondering if we could actually move the ordinance revision updates to, the A bucket, if folks are okay with that. So we can go ahead and get that update from Allison Davies and Lindell and Sue, if that sounds okay. And is Sue Lewis, there's a caller now. I'm wondering if that, I don't know where Sue is. So I don't want to assume that that's the 434 number is Sue or someone else, but
And Mayor Walker's joined us as well.
okay. Oh, hey Nakaya, you're just in time. We're actually just about to swap out some of the things, and Allison, I'm sorry. Now this looks kind of rude because
No, not at all. Please don't worry about it.
I am going ahead and keep it how we had it with the prep for the joint work session, which was our first item, especially now that Mayor Walker is here. So let's go ahead and open up discussion with that first, that first bucket. Nakaya, thanks for joining us. I know you have a lot on your plate. I also know that you don't just come to meetings when it's not important, so.
Well, just when it's the time, not importance. So I hope that's clear. So sorry that I'm late. I knew that it was going to be a challenge. I had a 4:30 to 6 with the People's Coalition. And so that ran a little bit over. So I logged right on to here as soon as I got off with them. But I spoke with Chantel earlier. I didn't know that, and I, fully understand that you all have been asking, for this meeting. I know that I had a reminder that I brought it up at the meeting when Charlene's last meeting. And I fully understand why the necessity of the meeting. Last night, this morning, it was probably middle of the night when I realized that this meeting had been scheduled for the 25th. I sent a council an email just trying to figure out why. And I had talked to Sina. I took my first break since I've been on council. And so this was scheduled while I was away, and I didn't know it had been confirmed. Sina had talked after she left the last meeting about the request to have the meeting, which I already knew there was a request to have the meeting. But what I had proposed was that until we had this new position hired, which would be the direct, the human rights, that would be the direct report for this position, this new deputy city manager, that it would be hard for us to have this meeting and have the answers that you all are looking for. And I know that's unfortunate. We've been having a lot of discussion today about that, especially Todd, but I know the board too may feel like they are kind of in limbo and directionless. And I shared with Chantel earlier that even if we made some decisions, which I think it would be hard for us to make, that, on if we had the work session Tuesday, that it's still, we still will be waiting for this person, this new deputy city manager, to come on before we made the next set of decisions. So what I think, and I don't know, and I'm, here to listen to, but what I think may have been, part of the concern, and I, understand, is that we would make some of these decisions without you all. And that was never my intention as someone who's pushed for this new deputy city manager position. It's to have this person come on and talk to all the people that they would be directly supervising and other people throughout the city, to build and create this blueprint, which they can't do in isolation because nobody can do all of this work on their own. So there was never any intention, and I don't know how many of you were at the city council meeting that Charlene was at, but even I had some questions that Charlene asked that was never like, Charlene, you wouldn't exist and this office wouldn't exist. And so when she came to the meeting for her last day, I said to her, the idea wasn't for you to go to another organization, even though I couldn't answer the questions, because I would be saying that we're going to create this new position and have someone who hopefully is excellent at creating equitable communities, equitable organizations, and that we will be bringing them in and deciding things in advance for them. So I wasn't open to that, but there was never a point in time where the human rights office did not fit into the city's equation. And I know that there was some fear around that, and that this person would be coming in and kind of, maybe slashing that. And that was never, the intention. And I shared with Chantel before, I have seen things like there's an office of equity and human rights, right? So it may be one office instead of two, but that would still mean there would be two managers and staff versus one, right? It's just under one umbrella with one director. But that's the only thing that I have seen that says that there would be any, change. And again, I'm not the one making that decision, and would be listening and learning along with the individual who would be hired and the, community members who serve on the commission too. And so I hope I'll take any questions, but my ask when I contacted Chantel today about the meeting, and I contacted her last week, and she was on vacation, to talk to her, not because I knew a meeting had been scheduled, but just to chat with her about what would be helpful about, discussion to have at this time, and when did that discussion, if we needed to calm, some of the troubled waters, what did that need to look like at this moment? And that was my original call to her. And then when I reached out today, while we can still have this meeting, I don't think it would be very productive, because we don't have a lot of the answers that you all would be looking for. And I think that it would be best for the person who will be hired, and hopefully that person will be on September, hopefully at the latest mid-October. And so we're talking about a October to November meeting. And the commitment I can make and that I already had hoped to happen was at that point, as part of that individual's orientation, that we sit down with you all so you all can talk about history, where you've been, where you want to go, with this new city manager who will have a lot of power to make some of these things happen that you all have wanted to happen for a long time, that, you know, people like Walt are talking about we've never reached like this initial intention that we had, and how close can we get to it. Hopefully that's the person to, you know, create that and then tell the rest of us what the investment needs to look like into that. So while we are planning on to creating an office of equity, and that person is there will be a director of that office along with this, you know, deputy city manager. This is a position that still, it's unfilled, but the dollars is allocated for this position to be filled. Just wanting that person who should have the skills that we all need to take the Human Rights Commission to the next level will be a part of the equation.
Thank you, Nakaya. Sorry, Mayor Walker, we're in a formal meeting, so thank you for sharing that. And I did appreciate speaking with you earlier today. A lot of this makes a ton of sense to me. Again, this is the first time people in the commission are hearing it. So if you all have questions, please ask, unmute yourself. You know, this is a real opportunity to engage. And okay, I see Jeanette is unmuted herself.
I just have a simple question. So it sounds like, will there be 3 positions? A deputy city manager, a director of equity and inclusion, and a director of the human resource office? Or is one?
The Human Rights Commission.
Sorry, the human rights.
Yes.
Yes, okay.
That position is already on the books. We've never removed that. So that funding is already there for that office because it's just replacing Charlene, right? So we haven't changed anything there. So the goal is this director of equity, along with the deputy city manager, because that person is responsible for, the deputy city manager is that big picture person and is responsible for kind of creating the blueprint for this equitable community that we claim we all want, right? And to put all the people in place, but also to work with the community partners like the county and UVA to make sure that what we're doing in this kind of regional, you know, efforts too, that those things are happening, and to monitor all the dollars that the city puts towards what we claim is equitable initiatives that many of us who do this work, we're not seeing the output from those very large investments of millions and millions of dollars. And so this person would be responsible for that. And then, you know, hoping that a measurements and solution office is created too, so that there's someone tracking the data on where we're putting our resources, and are we getting the outcome that we had hoped when we created, you know, whichever department, program, initiative, because we don't have that. So right now we just continually fund the same programs and initiatives, and we don't have any, you know, idea whether we're getting the return on investment that we had hoped for. But because it's easy, we keep doing the same thing. So, and then I'm sure all of those departments, like the Office of Human Rights, this new equity office, 2 people can't just do that work in the Office of Human Rights. And so when we're talking about divesting, reinvesting, we're talking about putting money and resources into these offices that we haven't done in the past, right? And making sure that they're staffed adequately, have the space to meet the community needs, to engage with the community in a way that they need to, so staff and, resources to do the work. So we know that it's going to be a significant, investment.
Thank you, Mayor Walker.
And I don't know if this is helpful, but in page 67 of the agenda packet, there is actually a diagram describing everything that Nakaya just laid out. I'm happy to share my screen if folks want to look at that really quickly, which I'll just go ahead and do just because I have it up. But if there are any other questions while we're on this is exactly what Nakaya was talking about, the city manager and city council's office, and then the deputy city manager of racial equity, diversity, and inclusion. Nakaya, you were kind of going into the fact that 2 people is not enough, which we would agree with. And I don't want to get too much in the weeds about this discussion. Nakaya, you're clearly an expert on this, and I think this is more about, if all the city council and, the city manager's office is ready to go for it in a joint session. It can't just be you, although we'd love to just meet with you and talk with you. And that's all good for me, but that wasn't necessarily the purpose of the joint session. It was to have everybody at the table. So currently what you suggested is, because Sue just came on, currently what you just suggested is potentially waiting until the deputy city manager is hired, which may happen in September. And then being able to have a full meeting with that deputy there in the same fashion that we have already, kind of set up, going over the history, being able to meet, that person who will be an expert, kind of giving some more stock in the city around doing the work, which is always good because we're kind of at a deficit and we need that. So I think that makes a lot of sense to me. And I don't know if others have, strong opinions about yes or no and things like that. So again, I want to just ask if you have anything that you would like to say or share. Please just go ahead and unmute your mic. I can't see everyone right now, so because I'm sharing my screen, so you can just go ahead and speak if you have something to share.
I tell Sue lost her internet, but she's on the phone.
Oh, okay.
I'm back.
Awesome. Catherine, I see you are unmuted. I don't know if that's because you want to say something or...
I do have a question. I'm not sure. So it's not, first of all, Mayor Walker, thank you very much. I really appreciate you coming. I appreciate the explanation. That makes a lot of sense. I know this has been an incredibly difficult summer, and I'm just glad I haven't been in charge of making any of the decisions anywhere, because I know it's been a lot of work for everyone. I just have a question, and I'm wondering if you can help us clarify. We've multiple times made requests for, say, the city manager, someone from the city meeting. We had a resident of the city come to us with an issue in public comment, and we wanted to follow up with the city manager, who wasn't able to make any of the meetings. We've had several requests to meet with someone because reviewing policy, this is simply about policy review that's under our purview. So we were reviewing police policy at the request of the police chief, but have had difficulty. Nobody's refused to meet with us, but it's been just difficult to get meetings set up. So the work hasn't moved forward. And I'm wondering if there is there a process? Is there something that we should be doing? Is there a way that we can get these meetings set up more readily so that we can move forward with the work that we're doing?
So I think in terms of, and you're talking about specifically with both Chief Brackey and Dr. Richardson?
Yes, and honestly, the request that we have didn't have to be them in particular. It could be a designee. And I don't, like I said, there wasn't a specific refusal, and I don't think that there was a specific issue. It's been, sort of a series of different issues. But that is meant that over the course of 9 months or a year, like, we've not been able to move forward on some things.
Mm-hmm. And, I guess there's no other way to put it other than that. So let me see. There have been a lot of challenges throughout the city in terms of what we've been, what has taken our attention, and not that this is not important, because it is. But I think until we get the staff member hired who has this expertise, it would be hard. I think a lot of what you would get is I have to check on that, and then that we would need another person to be able to kind of guide that process. I know there have been, conversations even about, how long it's taking to hire, but not only that, what direction that Todd is getting, since, Charlene left. And I think we have to, no matter how many meetings we had, we will probably have to wait to figure out, like, what's the, next step. Wanting whoever comes on to replace Charlene to be fully aware of what they're walking into, not for them to get here with one expectation. And even some of the decisions, like, do we hire an attorney versus, do we hire somebody with that, experience, or what experience do we hire someone with? Like, those type of questions, you're going to need someone to be able to, answer those questions. And we could have hired someone, but then if there were changes made, and I don't think anyone was ready to kind of, change the duties or maybe revert back to, original intentions or anything like that until this person is on board to be a part of, part of that discussion. Mm-hmm. So, and I don't know what the questions, I may be able to answer that a little bit better if I knew what questions were being asked. If it was what needs to happen during public comment, I think that should have been able to be answered. That should have been a, major, but without knowing the exact questions, I can't really say, why or why not, or why it didn't happen. But I definitely have that discussion. But I think for you all to get what you all need, it's going to be this new position that's going to help with that.
Thank you.
Miss Ann?
Mayor Walker, I was just thinking about this, and we have been working on these documents and these proposals and things for months. If we had been given some insight prior to this that there was going to be hired someone else in the city manager's office, then those are meetings that we could have just put off a little bit longer. But we never knew that a specific person was going to be hired in the city manager's office to do this.
And I think that, so before Charlene left, I did have a conversation with her about the Office of Equity, and what may have been the intentions behind that office. Once Mike Murphy left, I started kind of having the conversations about needing someone at a deputy city manager level to be able to kind of create this blueprint that we're asking for. So that's when the shift occurred, from where it would be another director, because we would have had a city manager in place, to shifting to the city manager, another deputy city manager. Now, I've been fighting for that position since I knew Mike was leaving. So it's been a while, and I think council approved that petition back in June. So that's new in terms of the approval there. But since I've been fighting for it for a year, I still have been having the conversation about what this blueprint could potentially look like, and all of the different departments who should probably fall under this new deputy city manager. So there are several factors. So before June, I would have just been coming to say, hey, we're still having some internal debates about whether it should be a director or a deputy position. And then what does that mean for these other offices, like the Office of Human Rights? And so that's been part of the conversation that I've been having over the past year. Like, do we have the capacity, resources, skills to, in the office at this point, to do this work that an equity office of human rights need from leadership? And it wasn't until June that council shifted with me enough for us to change, the direction that we were going. And before then, I would have only had big question marks. the same questions that you all probably would have been asking, I have been asking internally. And it's unfortunate, because it shouldn't take this long to get a position that we know that's needed, or to create the structure for some of the most important work, I think, that we're doing in the city at the time, especially when we're having all the questions around disparity, impact, and equity, equality, justice, injustice, all of those things. So I understand the frustration.
Thank you.
Mayor Walker, I do have a question for you, and it's kind of in line of, I'll be transparent, trying to pivot a little bit. So, there is a hiring process, I assume, that's going to be underway soon. And what is that hiring panel going to look like? And is there space for the Human Rights Commission to, give feedback or guidance on that hiring panel, be a part of that process? So we're ensuring like that person that is getting hired is the right fit, is my first question. And then the second part of that is there potential for us to use the time that we have on the calendar to actually just focus on that and supporting city council and hiring the deputy manager of racial equity, diversity and inclusion. And that's something that I just thought about. We have not talked about that either as a commission. So it's just, it's just a suggestion or a question. Sorry.
So I don't have an answer to that question at this time. I'll have to, ask, have that conversation. I am more involved in this process than council usually are in process. I mean, we get, here's who we're hiring. There are only a few positions that we hire or participate in. And it's, we can give a recommendation with the police chief. We hire the city manager. The city attorney is 50% our employee, and the finance director, and then the clerk, staff, and that's it. And so I am in a little bit more in this process just because it's kind of, it's kind of my baby and in a way that normally I would not, be in. And so I don't want to say something and then not be able to, follow through on it, because I know that I am not necessarily appreciated with being a participant the way that I'm participating in the process. And so, yeah.
Okay.
So it's definitely something that I've heard and I will keep in mind and talk to Dr. Richardson about when we have, our next conversation.
All right. Letitia is, sorry, our deputy city manager is also in the audience right now. And I don't know if she knows how to raise her hand or unmute herself. If she would like to say something, she probably doesn't, but I just want to let you know that, Letitia, we do see you and want to recognize that you're in this space. And if you would like to participate, just let us know. I think you have to dial *9 if you're on your phone. And if you're on the computer, you can raise your hand.
So hi, Ms. Shelton. But, and so I think that's, I don't want to say that I'm not in charge of picking the panel. And while Dr. Richardson and I have had conversations about what that looks like, I think we're still working on agreement with what the outcome will be there. But at this point, I'm just happy that I'm able to participate, and but I will discuss this with him.
Okay. Ms. Shelton's hand did come up, but then it went back down. So I'm not sure if she really intends to say that. And then Jessica, I see your hand is up, and then Ernest, you also were raising your hand. I'm not sure which one came up first.
Jessica can go ahead.
Mayor Walker, I just want to thank you. I appreciate you being here. I'm very new to the council, and I wanted to know, to the commission, and I wanted to know, you are very passionate about these topics, and I appreciate you just spending the time and making sure that this is seen. So I see you, and I appreciate that. I wanted to know briefly if you could give us an overview of you were talking about just we're not having the resources within our community. We kind of keep funding the same kind of things. We don't have this accountability to be able to track metrics and outcomes. What do you see as your top few things that you see for the officer of the Human Rights Commission and the Office of the City and Inclusion, those roles? Like, what do you hope for them to do within their first year of time?
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted to kind of hear your thoughts.
I guess it's best to just start with the the deputy city manager position. You're talking about an individual who's just one level under the city manager, right? And so with just by that title, you have power. And we're a community that we're talking about, all buzzwords that you can come up with that I'm hoping that now the equity, since it's the new one, which, if you've been in this business long enough, but that the words change, but the actions don't change and the outcomes haven't changed, which is why we're still having the conversations, today. And, so this person actually is someone who would have a lot of responsibilities, because you're talking about, even in some of the debates about whether this position needed to exist the way that it was existing in my head, it was, this person is normally a manager or director. And if you all remember back to the presentation from the Director of Human Resources and Dr. Richardson, this was a position that would potentially be, in the Human Resource Office, or just at a manager level, and possibly, a director. So I think that's, step one, is getting this person in, the commitment from council, which we made once we, made this decision, that we want someone in this role with this level of power to be able to say, hey, these are some of the challenges in our community that, we have faced. You talk about miseducation in the school system.
Mayor Walker, I am so sorry to interrupt you. It has been called to my attention. Our Q&A
Yeah, I
box
see
is
it.
being spammed. So
Yeah.
I just want to make sure that's being taken care of because there's a lot of things in there.
Yeah, I saw the comments popping up.
Yeah. Todd, could you just let us know?
Let you know, and I'm slowly dismissing them. I'm not sure what that does other than move them out of the main Q&A box, but I want to make sure that that happens. So if somebody does want to use it for a legitimate purpose, we can see their message. Working on that. It's a click by click process.
So I'm concerned that this is a matter of public record and that this
Hey,
gets.
Todd, and I'm sorry, this is Joe Rice. I wouldn't delete anything currently. Is Allison still on the line? Is she still involved in the meeting?
I'm still online, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so we're not, you're not actually deleting messages or comments, right, Todd?
Nope, just moving them from the open folder to the dismissed folder. So they're still in that folder, but I just want to make sure that we can still see legitimate messages coming in, which they'll be at the very bottom of the list if we don't move these out of the way.
Right. Thanks, Todd. And what I've done, I've gone under the hood and just, I don't know if this does any good now that we're already in the meeting, but I did uncheck the Q&A module. I see it's still visible. The attendees still might see it. I don't know if there's anything we can do mid-meeting, but that is turned off for now. I'm still looking at other ways that we can correct this.
Thank you so much. I'm sorry for that.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead. You were talking. I don't know what you were talking about, Mayor Walker.
Yeah,
we're talking about the power.
Yeah, and so I think that's one of the main things that we just have to see. And then I don't think any of us can say, and I try to be very careful with saying in advance, and some people struggle with this with the Home to Hope program, everything that it will be, because while I have some comments and suggestions I definitely want to include, and we'll be looking for doing the interview process. I think it's important just to know that you have hired a person who has the right pulse, who understands these issues, who has a history, not just once it became the word of the day, but who has a history of investing in the issues that we are passionate about, housing discrimination, job discrimination, education, and the policing reform, what that needs to look like, but also can shift to where we stop talking about just how we can give Black, Hispanic, low-income people crumbs and create a community where people can thrive in, right? So we just don't want someone to come in and say, here's the bare minimum. We want someone that can create the blueprint where people can start, dreaming and releasing some of this oppression that has been weighing them down and figure that out. And so what does that mean? And having those very tough conversations internally and externally about whether the right people are in place to be able to do that work, or whether they're not, whether the right programs are in place to accomplish those goals, whether they're not, whether we're directing resources to properly, efficiently, effectively to the right places to eliminate some of these major concerns we have. And you all know, and I know, but we still have all of these major issues that people just try to figure out what the law is. I spoke with someone yesterday who was talking about vouchers, and that they had applied to one of the housing communities and they had been approved, and then once they found out that the voucher would be helping to support their housing monthly, they told them that they needed to meet the 3 times the requirements and what that means. So today, I had a conversation, it's in my notes because it just happened yesterday and I haven't been able to, work on it. And so this is the first time Ms. Shelton is hearing this, or anyone from the city manager, but my immediate thought went to be, so what can the city do to say, hey, if people can't get homes and if people are uncomfortable because they view voucher holders as this type of person who's not going to pay their bills, who are irresponsible, who are going to destroy the apartment, which to destroy the apartment or house, that's something that's already been in the works. But what can the city do to back these vouchers to potentially make landlords more comfortable, for accepting them? And then I was on a call with the United Way director, and I mentioned it, to her. And today when we had a meeting, and, it's something that she said she would think about. So we give people vouchers and then they are still discriminated against, which they're not supposed to be discriminated against. And that is something that the Human Rights Commission, wants to be able to not only just investigate, but some, sort of enforcement, and even being able to weigh in when, landlords are, some of the responses we got in when we sent those letters out with, hey, can you not evict people? And then when we create landlord funds, that some of these same people are the first to ask for resources,
right.
But they are not interested in being a part of the solution. So we need people monitoring those type of things, and not kind of, in limbo and not sure about what the direction is. So I understand, but I don't know everything this person or what they'll bring to the table. I just have the big picture idea of who is in this. And this is somebody who is passionate, has a combination of the lived and book knowledge to be able to navigate, some of these systems that have been in place for a very long time. And I've been in these rooms in a way that I hadn't been in my advocacy world, to know that there's always someone trying to circumvent or come up with a reason why not to do something. And I hope this is a person who is demanding solutions only, right? And I was the only counselor who didn't sign on the Frontline Fair Workers Fair Treatment Ordinance Act. I don't remember the entire name, but that the other night, because there are things on there that we are just not doing. And I'm not someone who's simply symbolic. I need to know that if we're not doing it today, we're at least making a good faith effort to get there. And that taking care of people, taking care of the community is a top priority, and every decision that we make stems from that priority. And because of that, all I could sign on was number 12, which is that we'll create another group, task force, something to study things that we already know that people wouldn't want done to them that they do to others, right? So while I'm reluctant to create, other task force, I did sign up and volunteer to serve on it, because I know that I will make sure that, I'm stretching the city, county, and those conversations.
Thank you, Mayor Walker. Ernest, you had your hand up.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to close this out because something just popped up on my iPad. Young lady's name, parents, all this stuff from the question and answer. So I don't know where this came from. I took a picture of it, but I can't close it out. But I might have to go out and come back in. I will after I ask Mayor Walker my question.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Mayor Walker, for being here, and your comments and statements that you made just a second ago, why I appreciate you as being our mayor here in Charlottesville. Trying to wrap my head around this new position. So we're hiring trying to hire a deputy city manager that will help run the Office of Human Rights, Police Review, and Office of Equity. Will we also hire someone in Charlene's position as well?
Yes, and I think
and if we are, how long after that process of hiring the deputy city manager will that happen?
yeah, so I can't answer like in terms of time. I think we may have a better idea from that once we know. So what I talked to Chantel and said at the beginning of this meeting is we hired the new deputy city manager who will be responsible for not only the Office of Human Rights, the PCRB, and creating this new Office of Equity. They will also, the Director of Social Services, the Director of Human Services will also be the departments that will, you know, that they will be a direct report. That will be that will be their direct report. And so and if you all have studied the data enough to know there are all areas where we have some major challenge between how Black citizens in the community are being treated compared to white citizens in the community, and then how Hispanic citizens are being treated, and then whether you have money or not, what the color of law looks like for you. And so that's, and that person needs to dig into those areas too. And for the things that are problematic within the city. I mean, this year it's the police, last year was the school division, the year before that it was social services and the equity, issues that they were facing within the foster care system, CPS complaints and things like that. So every year that we have just been diverting our attention from one department to another, but we haven't fixed any of these things. So without knowing the exact hire date for this person, the only commitment I can make at this time is that one of the first things that I have expressed to council that went out in the communications today was that no decision would be made before we had this work session with the Human Rights Commission. And I'm sure that person would not be ready to make a decision at the end of that meeting, but by that time, we should be able to give, a timeline for when we would be returning with more information. And I know that's not necessarily helpful when you've been waiting, but I don't want to tell you that, oh, we'll have the meeting and by the end of that week, that individual, or the next week, or even, that first month, that person will be ready to have the conversations with Dr. Richardson that they would need to have about some of the recommendations, that they have. But the resources for to replace Charlene, they're still there. So it's not that we have to wait another budget cycle or anything, like that. We have to wait till July 1st or anything. Like once we're ready to go and kind of have agreed upon like what's next steps, who are we hiring first? Is it someone with, with some kind of legal skill? People have been asking, for an attorney, something like whatever we agree upon as that first hire. I think the resources definitely, should be there for, so it's not something that we will have to wait for.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Mayor Walker, thank you so much for being with us. I'm being transparent with you. I am a little bit frustrated, but I also do trust you. And we did have conversations about it. I think that it's part of the frustration really just stems out of the fact that we all know that our city needs to do better. And we all know that we need to hire people that are capable of doing that stuff. So, if it's so bad that we don't have people in those positions right now, And, you know, what you just explained to us is just a process of at least getting that one person, at least hired, that deputy director position hired. So there's more people around, there's more capital around to move the conversation forward. I said it once, I'll say it again, it does make sense to me. I just want to express to you that this has been a really slow bureaucratic process. And yeah, that's all I have to say about that. I think that it makes sense, but you know, if we have the funds to hire an office of human rights manager or director, and we've already had those, and the only thing that's preventing us from doing that, in some regards, is just having that discussion on what that position should look like. We do have that. The Human Rights Commission has met time and time again on it. We have that ready. We just really want to work with council to see if, you know, if this is in accordance with what y'all were thinking. I don't know if that really needs to wait. Again, I trust you. I'm happy to let that wait until after the deputy manager position. I'm just not really, you know, understanding that completely, because I think we could probably do both. But that's just my personal opinion.
And what, you know, this is sort of, you know, CRHA, I'm on that board too. And they needed a financial director. And even though we knew it was needed, I still think there's a lot of value in the new executive director being able to hire some other people, like be a part of that process of hiring. So even though this position was needed, and it's something that's out there now, my contributions to that conversation is to allow the new executive director to select some of the people who are going to be on the team, because there are so many people who are already just there, right? And so I understand that we could probably do both, but I think it's not, what we are going to be asked is not simply to just fill Charlene's position in that capacity. We want to have a more robust conversation about what does the 2020 Human Rights Commission and moving forward looks like. And what my request is there is that I think this person who will be hired to create that blueprint from how do we best meet the needs of the community members who are most challenged by the systemic and institutional racist policies that exist in this city, a part of that equation, and a part of the, you know, what's next. And I think I shared here, and I have shared with you too, but is there one director and two managers? Are there two offices, two directors? What's the skills that are we reverting back, you know, to the original intention? Where does those conversations about EEOC, investigative powers, like where do they all fit in, you know, to these equations? And who is the best person, you know, to have those conversations? We could have them now, but I think all of us, I mean, I work full-time, but I don't work, you know, full-time. So then you're talking about that hiring process, even though you all will be participating in it, the same thing that you're waiting on now, the staff member to participate with y'all, I think you will still be waiting until this person is on board to kind of flush out, you know, some of those details.
Okay. Thank you for that. I don't know if folks can hear the mamble at my house. My partner is having a virtual happy hour, so I apologize if there are things that are coming out of the other room. Thank you, Mayor Walker, for being with us. I really do appreciate it. I always appreciate your leadership and really do respect you. I feel like our next steps are really just kind of sitting with the fact that, you know, what the information that Mayor Walker has brought to us, you know, being in agreement, at least with her strategy and following in her lead around potentially not doing that August 25th meeting. And knowing that we're not doing that because we're following Mayor Walker's lead and really kind of trusting the fact that we need to hire this deputy city manager first, just so we have more folks in the room that we can effectively engage in conversation around. And so with that, the meeting will what Nakaya has shared with Mayor Walker has shared with us is that that meeting will probably be in late October or early November. And I know I can't speak for everyone, but and I'll say it for the third or fifth time, I said it already, a lot of that plan makes sense to me. I do respect that process. And, you know, if there are some really strong feelings around not doing that, please share them. If not, I really would like us, we still have Allison Davies on the line. She's been patiently waiting. I would like us to kind of try to move on to the next step. And, you know, I guess officially we would need to recant on that August 25th meeting that's been publicly posted. Would be part of that. And then Mayor Walker, for you, I really would like I see that Ms. Shelton's still on the line. I really would like to continue to have conversations around what the hiring process for the new deputy city manager position would look like, and the Human Rights Commission's role in that, and what that could look like. I know you have to ask questions about that, but I just wanted to put that on the table as another to-do point. So.
I'm sorry to interject. I'm concerned, and I think several other commissioners are, about the content of the Q&A that's sitting still potentially publicly accessible. There's a lot of information about people in there. I'm wondering, and maybe Joe can weigh in on this, and Allison too, if it's possible to shut down this Zoom and then all log back on again, so that information isn't up for public consumption.
Todd, I'm sorry, I missed that last part. I was switching my headset. Can you repeat that?
Or just a question, several commissioners have expressed concern about this, and I think it's a valid concern that a lot of private information was shared in the Q&A. While I've put it all in the dismissed folder, I don't know what of that is publicly visible still, and just out of respect for the people's information that was posted, I wonder if we could leave this meeting and then everyone can use their link to rejoin again, just out of respect for the people whose information was posted.
Hey, Todd, real quick, doing some fact checks on the public information that was posted. It looks like a lot of it is curious at best. The Twitter, Instagram accounts, the addresses are not valid. It looks like they're just crap VPNs, but if it means scrubbing the data, that would be good. But just FYI, none of it seems. Quick check, none of it seems technically valid.
Are we worried about like publishing private personal information? Is that the concern, Todd? I don't have access to the chat comments or question answers that you're concerned about.
I think that is the question. Thanks for clarifying. Is whether or not that is. I don't know if the Q&A. I know the chat is a matter of public record. I don't know if the Q&A is, and maybe you or Joe can clarify that. I'm not sure who can see that, to be honest. I know that attendees have some access to it, but in fact, they may not be able to see it now because we were trying to mitigate the spam. So I'm not sure exactly.
Yeah, I did deactivate Q&A module. Now I'm curious as to, and I see Letitia is on the line here as an attendee. Letitia, if you can hear us, I'm going to allow you to talk. And if you could let us know if you can still see the Q&A module.
People are posting now in the Q&A that attendees can still see it.
Okay.
Yeah, there were some very offensive things said, not just the personal information, but there were some very offensive things that were said that I'm very bothered by.
So I don't know if new registrants can see it or can participate in Q&A now if somebody was to decide to register now. But it seems like those who registered prior to this being deactivated can still see it and participate.
Yeah, I can still. Joe, can you hear me? This is Letitia.
I can hear you.
Yeah, I can still see it, but I don't. It's just a bunch of names with birth dates.
Okay, so we did deactivate that, and I did log in as a register. We did log in after it was deactivated, and we did not see it. So
Okay.
anybody joining us now should not be able to see the Q&A module. But if you think it's for a safe practice for everybody to log off and log back on, we will not have that Q&A visible. At least it should not be visible.
Well, if you weren't creating a designated public forum to answer questions, we don't actually need the Q&A section active at all in this meeting. So if people can't see it now, or if they still can see it, it might be a good idea to log back on. But I think the commission needs to make it clear that you're not taking questions and answers from the public at this meeting.
So my question, if I could just interrupt, I just want to make sure all of the information that was in the Q&A, all of the comments that were made in the questions, all that information, is that after this meeting is over, is that a matter of public record that people can see?
Are you asking me? I mean, I think we need to keep the data and information that was part of the meeting. What I'm mostly concerned about now is confusion over the degree to which you're creating a public forum. And so I think that you need to create, the commission right now needs to create some clarity about whether this is a venue for question and answers. You can't select individual questions to be deleted. You have to keep, a record of the comments if you've created that public forum.
Okay.
So, so I don't know from a technical standpoint how it's preserved after this, but we certainly can't delete comments because we don't like a specific speaker or what they're talking about.
Thank you, Allison. I'll just go ahead then and repeat what Todd had shared at the beginning of the meeting about our public comment. We have a public comment at the beginning of our meeting and a public comment at the end. It's not an open forum, to use the terminology that our assistant city attorney used. It is a formal meeting of the Human Rights Commission, and there is some formality around that. So we are not monitoring the Q&A box, and at this point it should be shut off. If you would like to speak at public comment, it will be open again at the end of our meeting for the public comment section and to share what you have. Other than that, this is not meant to be a back and forth kind of open discussion. I love those, but this is not what this meeting is. So I hope that does provide some clarity. So basically,
can I ask a question?
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, it's Catherine. Two things. One is I see in the Q&A, people are saying the attendees can still see the comments. Yes. And two, I'm not sure that Ms. Davies understands these are not simply things that we don't love. It's the N word repeated hundreds of times.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I think maybe then if you want to eliminate those, maybe we should log out and just start a new meeting.
Thank you. All right. Well, we are going to go ahead and do that very quickly. I'm sorry for that.
I do want, if you don't mind, I'm going to jump in as far as starting a new meeting. That would require a new registration link. So we could do that, or we could just try to log back into this meeting, and the Q&A is deactivated currently. So I'm not sure if that's going to work when we log back in, if Q&A will still be visible for this meeting or not. We have not tried that yet, but I could create a new registration link and then send that out.
Hey,
I don't.
Brian,
This is Joe.
Brian, I froze and I had to log back in. And when I log back in, the Q&A is not at the top of my screen.
Okay, so then that should work then. So what if the attendees can hear us, we will end this meeting, and then I will restart the meeting, and then everybody can use, the panelists can use their panelist links to log back in, and attendees, you can use the public facing link to log back in. And then if you'd like to call recess for a certain amount of time, Chantel, you can go ahead and do that.
Yeah, I'm also reclaiming my time. I know this is supposed to be 2 hours, but I think we deserve about 20 more minutes for that. Okay, so if you could just log out and rejoin with the same link that's been sent. Thanks, everybody.
Do you want to declare a recess for a certain amount of time?
Yeah, I think that you want to.
5-minute recess.
That's what you need to do.
Yeah, sorry. I'm sorry. Declare a 5-minute recess and be back at 7:20 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you.
Before our meeting.
More like during.
Mm.
No, I'm still waiting to eat.
I had a lovely roasted lemon chicken.
I get very hangry, so usually with
Tortilla chips. No
that's
dip,
all you got?
nothing. Nothing.
Given all of our problems, I had planned about 8:30 to cook, to do dinner. I think I'm just going to have a bowl of popcorn sometime after 10 o'clock.
They had a
Ooh,
food
a
truck.
bowl of popcorn sounds delicious.
Yeah, well, it'll work. It'll fill you up.
Popcorn sales have gone up exponentially since the pandemic.
They're a great snack. We had a food truck on the outside of our apartment complex. I was able to grab the food, but I couldn't eat it. And you had your hand raised?
Yes, I was wondering, because we're only given 2 hours for this meeting and we're taking this break, how is that going to affect us accomplishing what we need to do tonight?
Well, I did want to have a comment about from when we finished with Nikaya. Do we have everybody back yet?
I think our group is back. Allison Davies hasn't logged back on. I don't know if she will, but our group is back. We do have on the
we were talking about delaying delaying this joint meeting and everything. So I was hoping to have a chance to comment on that.
Okay. Yeah. Well, so a minute and 26 seconds, Rob, and I guess Sue, you were saying that do we need to take roll call again?
I think we do. Even though it was a recess, if you're going to do any voting, you really need to know if we've got a quorum back.
We'll do
like we do.
We do have a quorum, but we can have Todd do the roll call again when we open back the meeting, and then Andy, I'll immediately give you the floor to share. I saw your hand was up, so I do apologize because then all this other stuff happened.
It's Allison.
Thank you guys for logging off and logging back on. That just was unacceptable, what was in the comments.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. It kind of throws you off when the first time. I'm not gonna lie, it kind of does. It's a really smart tactic. It's rude, but it is a little effective. Because I got thrown off a little bit, but I'm
the focus
to log off, and now at least it's not up there. I don't believe we've ever had that open actually before. That's the first time we've had that open for some reason.
We've had Q&A before, but people don't use it too much.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that when you're trying to have your official meeting and you've created a designated public forum, it's probably useful to keep that aspect or option closed.
Okay. Thank you. So it's 7:26, and I'm gonna open us back from our recess. Todd, could you go ahead and do our roll call just so we know who's come back?
Sure. I'll go down the whole list again just as a formality, but here we go. Chantel,
Here.
Sue,
Here.
Jeanette.
Present.
Did I hear? Oh, okay. Phoebe, Ernest,
Present.
Olivia, Melvin, Jessica,
Here.
Laura,
Here.
Catherine,
Here.
Andy, Andy,
Here.
Ann,
Here.
Matthew, Lindell,
Here.
and Rob.
Ah! Are we really surprised that I'm still here?
Yes.
Thanks, everybody.
He just needs his passy. He's fine.
All right. Thanks for muting yourself, Rob. Though your newborn son, they are really cute. Andy, I know that you had a comment. Did you want to say this why Mayor Walker was here, or is it okay?
Yes, I want to thank Mayor Walker for sharing, sort of the bigger picture that we're trying to kind of figure out here with city manager and deputy manager and all these things. And I think it has been sort of put off, and there's been meeting after meeting where we talk about trying to get this the position in front of council, and so I appreciate Mayor Walker your sort of sharing a little bit more of the process and where the hurdles are, and so I'm supportive of having these pieces in place before we have that joint meeting, because otherwise it seems kind of like we're going to waste time having a joint meeting if we don't have all the necessary people in the room that are going to be making those decisions. So thank you, and hopefully we can get that happening soon and move along with our office director. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Andy.
Thank you.
Does anybody else have any other comments shared? And all right, we're still like kind of present where we left it off. I don't need to repeat everything over again. All right, great. Mayor Walker, thanks for coming to the call. I think it sounds like we're all in agreement in support of you and the process that you just explained to us. So again, just to follow up is just checking in with Ms. Shelton or somebody at the city manager's office just to see if we could have some input on that deputy city manager of REDI, and then just keeping the communication open. I hope this isn't something where we don't get to communicate with you at all up until, the point, but.
Yes, and I made the comment to someone today that I hope people don't feel like I'm neglecting. It's not. I mean, I feel like when we're on the same page, that it's not something, because I am really stretched thin, that it's that you all already know that. But if that's not the case, and I need to come on and say that, then I don't mind coming on to say that. Again, I just want to be clear, because this just happened with the PCRB. This is not a situation where the Human Rights Commission can interview the person, but in terms of having the conversation about being a panelist on the community panel for the person, I think that, or a couple, that is, that seems reasonable to me. I just have to talk to Dr. Richardson about, what that his vision for that is and what that looks like. All
right.
Discussion, but we haven't made that decision. So just want to share that.
Awesome. Well, if there are no more items there, I'm going to keep moving us through our agenda. Sue was like, yes, please. And the next bucket there, which we've already no, we have not discussed, but the HRC vacancies. Todd, if you wanted to give us a little bit of an update around that, so everybody's up to speed on the conversations that we've had.
Sure. So the vacancy question, and I think maybe what we could do, I'll have trouble doing that at the same time as I'm talking, but we could look at the roster sheet so you understand the current number of people who are on the commission and those who are whose terms are about to expire. I think we mentioned at the outset that this would have been Melvin's last meeting. His term expires the 31st, I believe. And so what's currently being advertised is 2 vacancies. Once Melvin leaves, it would be 3. And I believe, Anne, your term expires in October. Without looking at the chart, I can't say, but something around that. And so this all ties into a little bit about the discussion around ordinance amendments as well, in thinking about how large do you want to be as a commission? Do you want to set an upper limit as well as a lower limit? So I hope that sets the context. I'm sad that Melvin couldn't be here tonight because one, we like to have him present, but also don't know if he has applied to be on the commission. Council will be doing appointments again in September. So if Melvin were to apply and then be reappointed, it wouldn't be until September. So does that give a good synopsis, Chantal?
Yep. Thank you, Todd. And I don't know if I think Jessica posted it. It's on page 72 if you need a visual of everything that Todd just explained on the terms being up. So right now, as he explained, it's currently posted. I think we have, I don't know if there's a number on it. I think it's just kind of open. Sue, if you remember a little bit better than I, because you were also on the email conversation. Sue, you are still muted. Okay, her computer isn't working.
My screen just disappeared and now it's back. I think we can just go with the 2 or 3 for now, and that would bring us up to, we have 11 today and we're missing 3, and that would bring us up to 15 or 16, which is not quite as many as we had at the peak of our membership. So I don't have a problem with asking them to fill, depending on Melvin's status, to just fill 2 or 3 positions right now. That's where I am on it.
Thank you, Sue. We also had some just brief conversations on, if there are things that we would like to see in a new commissioner, not necessarily a requirement, but maybe favorable. I'm thinking how we had Catherine Spear, who is a civil rights attorney, and that was pretty helpful to have her on there. So if there are folks that are applying, that would be great to have. We also could take the other route and just make sure that we are sharing the word with certain people that we think would be a good fit for the Human Rights Commission, and encourage them to apply. I know that Catherine Spear had offered a couple others within the office that she used to work with to potentially fill her spot. So that's another little strategy we could use. I don't know why there's a star by it, Todd. Do we need a vote on that?
Yeah.
No, it's more just some discussion. If you wanted to set an upper limit for the number of commissioners, that would probably be something that you might want to agree upon through a vote. But again, we can't amend the ordinance. It's just more of a matter of, do you want to move forward with putting language like that in the ordinance when we can then meet with council and present it as a proposed amendment.
Oh, okay. Andy has his hand raised. You go ahead, and then Miss Ann.
So how is the number determined? Is it something that council decides based on who they appoint? Is it just sort of floating out there? Okay, Sue's nodding.
How it is floating.
Floating out there. Is there any input that we can have as a body to say this is what the number we desire?
I'm hoping that that comes across as we're working on this little ad hoc committee working on the ordinance changes, because we left the last meeting, we left right at that point where we were going to start discussing.
Great. Thanks, Sue.
And then Miss Ann.
Yes, my concern about specifying particular people is that we may be missing people that have a true compassion for human rights, and they may not fit in a certain category. So I would hate for us to say, we specifically need this, we need that, we need this, but allow us to get the applications and review them and have a discussion about it before a decision. And we could make a recommendation, hopefully, to City Council that says, these are the people we recommend, but not to put specific areas where they need to go.
Okay, thank you, Miss Ann. Well, maybe not requirements, but maybe preferences. Is that okay?
If we would have to agree on those preferences.
Yeah.
And we're not there yet.
No, I'm just saying, I'm just concerned about putting the certain requirements, because, we may be missing out on people that really have that passion for it. So when we all applied, when Sue and I applied, we just applied because we knew it was something new in the community, and we both had a passion because of our background to be a part of the commission. If you wanted to link me to some specific area, you could say education, but that's just how it turned out. So, but we have people that might just want to contribute to their community. And I don't think we should limit the preference.
Okay. I definitely, thank you, Miss Ann. I definitely hear you. I also think in some ways, having preferences for even listing preferences, it could also work to get people that wouldn't normally apply because they see themselves in that preference. So, I'm thinking about, this is just an example. I'm not saying this is what it needs to be, but I'm thinking about if part of some of the Human Rights Commission's goals is to continue to forge relationships with the PCRB and things like that. Having someone that has had a background in reentry or has come from that world in general. And I know, Miss Ann, you work on that, but and also having someone on the commission that has that, distinct background, maybe they're previously incarcerated or something like that, them being able to bring that experience to the Human Rights Commission. They may be looking at the Human Rights Commission and because of how life is, they don't necessarily see themselves as part of that solution. And so being able to list that as a preference does open the door from time to time for people who may have been, a victim of unjust policing or whatever it is, to then see themselves as part of the equation. And so I do think that I do hear what you're saying, like we could limit people, but we also could, be opening the doors to others that wouldn't necessarily see themselves as part of the Human Rights Commission. So I think it's kind of a both and type situation, and just being able to use it strategically in a way that's like, hey, we don't want to say someone who's not checking a certain box can apply, but, also still using that as a way to get some of the people that, we may or may not have look at this board as something that could be a part of their lives, to be a part of it. Lindell, your hand is up.
Thanks. I finally figured out how to do that. So I agree with Chantel. I think that one of the important things that any group can do is to identify areas in which you need expertise or where expertise is desirable. And so I think it's important that we do pay attention to things that we could use in our work, right? Some qualities that we could use that we know we lack. So I think asking and saying we would like to recruit people with this expertise, that's not the same thing as stopping anyone else from applying. And that brings me to my second point, which is I think we should think carefully about this idea of an upper limit, because we don't know. It's the same argument, right? It's the same thing. We don't know who we're missing if we say we can only have 12 people or 10 people or 9 people. I would think that what we would like to do is to be inclusive, to include the people who have that passion and that you were talking about. I agree completely. We don't want to miss those people. And we want to be able to actively recruit people who have areas of expertise that we have identified as being important. So I think we don't put limits, and we ask for specific kinds of experience. That would be my approach to this.
I don't know if Rob, thank you, Lindell. I don't know if Rob popped back into the picture because he wants to say something or not. And there, so I saw Miss Ann, but I don't know if Sue had her hand up first.
Yep.
So sorry, Sue. You're in the lower bottom corner. Miss Ann's ticket is right beside mine, so I kind of see her face.
On my screen, I'm way at the top.
Oh, okay.
Because the person if you sign in, you are at the top, no matter what. Anyway, we obviously are veering into number C, ordinance revision updates, where you've got the information and know what we've been talking about. My thinking is we still have a lot of discussion with Allison on various things. That what I'm hoping you'll do is let us bring suggested revisions back to you, and the commission as a whole will discuss them. That was the whole point of doing it this way, instead of taking an hour or so in each meeting to discuss one tiny point of the ordinance. So I'm hoping you'll let us continue. I mean, I'm hearing various people's input on it. So as I'm sitting in that meeting, I'm going to say, well, I heard this and I heard that. So I'm not actually going to speak to where my preferences are right now, because I'm part of that group. And I would hope you would let us continue to do that work and come back to you. This should not be something that we feel we have to take care of immediately. And that's why we had the vacancy thing, I think, on the agenda, so that we could at least take care of this particular go around. And so that's where I am on that.
Thank you, Sue. And then Miss Ann.
You know what? I'll just say that the idea of advertising with preferences it just doesn't ring right with me. And I will honorably disagree. That we should have that. And I should say respectfully disagree.
Yes, ma'am. And then I don't remember if Ernest has had his name hand. Okay, he did not. So Lindell and then Todd. I'm looking at the hands that are virtually raised.
I think Todd had his hand before me.
Oh, okay.
I was just going to say, you've given me enough information. I just need to bring back the number of vacancies so that the clerk also knows how many to advertise. So I think we're set. And also know that to speak to Ann's point about seeing the applications that come in, we should have that opportunity, though it may not be in a meeting, because I think I will get the applications just a week before council will make the decision, which may mean that it won't fall at a time when we can review them in a meeting. So it may just be by email, and you can just send your comments to me like you did before, and I'll pass those on to Kina.
Thank you, Todd. And then Lindell and Laura, and then Laura.
So I just want to make sure that I'm understanding a process thing here. So we have this ad hoc committee that we formed to look at the ordinance. And at the time that we established this committee, I think maybe I misunderstood, but I feel as though things were added to the ad hoc committee's mission, which is fine. But I was particularly interested in making sure that the wording in the ordinance itself about sexual orientation and gender identity were included. And then we have other things that are kind of added on now that we're talking about in terms of the ordinance, which is fine. But I'm wondering if we need to wait until every single thing that we're talking about is discussed and voted on, or if we can simply say, yes, let's vote on the sexual orientation and gender identity thing and just do it.
Okay.
Right. So that's my question. Do we have to wait until we've got everything that we want done, or can we move ahead when we have consensus?
Okay. So Linda, I'm going to move us into that section. Allison, I feel like is scribbling down that note. I don't know what she's scribbling down.
Yeah, no. I wasn't sure that I understood the question, so I wanted to make sure. You would want to approve an individual section of the ordinance, and you can certainly have discussion before you approve that and work on it. But I guess what I'm trying to say is that what would go before the commission would be, say, for example, section 2-431 is amended to include sexual orientation and gender identity in subsection A. And that would be before the commission, and you would vote to recommend that change to city council. Does that answer the question?
That is my question. I would like for us to actually move forward in areas in which we feel as though there may be consensus, right? I mean, if we think that we're ready to just say, yes, let's go ahead on that. I'm not sure we need to wait another 2 or 3 months until we've resolved all the other issues that we are concerned about.
Okay, well, there's a couple of steps to this process. So yes, you could put on your agenda ordinance section 2-431 with proposed revisions, have discussion about it, and the commission could vote to approve that recommendation to city council. At another meeting, you could put section 2-432 on it and do the same thing. With respect to what you take to council, my recommendation would be that that you're sending all those recommendations at one time, so that you're not so that council can amend the ordinance in all the sections that you're seeking amendments to the ordinance, should they agree to do so. So, yes, you as a commission can absolutely break it up and get consensus on individual sections of the ordinance. I think that you want to have gotten to a point where you can send a complete document to council for their approval.
Okay, so I appreciate that clarification. And so what I would propose and what I would like to see is for us to actually to do this, to separate them when we can approve something, so that at least we can say we have moved forward on something, that we have made a decision. I think that's helpful for us to, rather than have kind of lots of things sitting out there unfinished. That's just mine.
Yeah, that's absolutely within the Human Rights Commission's discretion.
Great. Laura, you had your hand up. I don't know if it was in this conversation or not.
Sorry, there was a lot of static. This is looping back to the description originally. So this is like a couple steps back. Just to caveat that it might be helpful to include some details about what work on the commission is like. I had applied for another commission and was woefully underqualified for it, and experienced that while interviewing for it. And it would be helpful to know what a successful member of the commission looks like, whether that be the professional background that you bring or your personal experiences. And so if you look at the current posting for vacancy, it's very brief. It just has really our ordinance, current members, and a description of kind of what our mission statement is. So it could be helpful to have a little bit more information there. And then I second Lindell's point.
Awesome. Thank you, Laura. Lindell, are these hands like old hands now that are virtually raised? Because I think I saw Jessica's hand go up. I do want to say that we're like officially in, I want to move us to the ordinance conversation since Allison has been here for a while. And we don't have a lot of time left. So if that's okay, I'm going to keep moving us along. And Sue and Lindell, if you want to give more of a, I feel like we're already talking about it, but more of a, at least a brief, or maybe Allison, you're the one who does it, but like a brief just kind of breakdown of y'all's little meeting that wasn't a meeting or whatever.
Certainly, I think it should be a commissioner that discusses the updates and what they're looking for. I can answer any questions, and that's why I wanted to be here tonight, so that we could continue to move forward with getting this ordinance where y'all would like to see it.
Thank you. Okay, and just to clarify for members of the public, Lindell and Sue Lewis, 2 members of the Human Rights Commission, met with Allison Davies. It is under the count for a public meeting, so they're going to give a report out. You can find in the notes from that meeting in the agenda packet. So Lindell or Sue, if y'all are ready for that, you have the floor.
Okay. Sue, I don't know if you have it ready, but I'm looking for the notes. I had them open and now I lost them.
Me too. I mean, the notes are what they are. I personally don't know that there needs to be any further discussion of the notes, since the notes are describing what we talked about, and I've already indicated that we have another meeting coming up, and having listened to the other input, you know, I don't know what else to say.
Okay.
It's right in front of you.
I don't know if this would be helpful just for the purposes of public information. We're looking at
those are the documents are.
Oh yeah, no, I know, Sue. I was going to just, you know, emphasize that y'all are looking to update your unlawful discrimination categories to add the ones that the Virginia Values Act just passed in July of this year to include sexual orientation and gender identity. Y'all have discussed previously, and this was at least approved by our office, changing section 2-432 to consider representation to include demographic composition that's reflective of the city of Charlottesville. Working on some research on this question about public education. I will report that it's pretty clear under Virginia law that because the education system was created through a constitutional provision, that it's not under the jurisdiction of the city or the Human Rights Commission. But I have a longer memo to provide to the committee when we meet in a larger discussion about that. So there had been discussion about modifying education to private education, the ordinance, to promote clarity. And then there's some changes that we really haven't sort of dove into in section 2-433. And also kind of further exploring the duties and responsibilities. So section 2-437 would remove reference to fair housing complaints as addressed by the Piedmont Housing Alliance, because they're not doing that type of work. Those to my recollection at least, and are much more explicitly and clearly discussed within the notes. And I agree with Sue, they speak for themselves, but those are sort of the areas that as an attorney I've been thinking about and trying to help advise you on.
Thank you so much. That was really helpful. So thank you all for bearing with us through that. Lindell, you had proposed the passing of at least the updated language for gender identity, and
yes,
I think that would be amazing if we could. We don't have an asterisk around that to bring it up to vote, but perhaps at the next regular meeting that could be officially be on the agenda. If that's okay with you and everybody else.
yes, I'd like to do that.
I think it needs to officially be on an agenda. That sounds like a very good plan.
Are there any more comments around the ordinance updates? I'm really excited, Allison, that you've been working with us, and can't wait to hear more about the Values Act and the memorandum and all that stuff that you're doing on the back end. We really appreciate you a lot. So just in case you don't hear it every day, you're a rock star. If that's okay, I'm gonna keep moving us through the agenda. Do y'all have any more just pressing things for Allison while she's still here? All right. The next item is around UVA student return and community health.
I'm going to say goodbye. Thank you.
Sorry, I should have given you some space to say that. Bye, Allison. Jessica, your hand is up. I don't know when it went up because I was not paying attention, so I apologize.
Yeah, no, I had a question just about, she's gone now, but maybe you can help explain it. Just can you give a little bit more clarity around the education piece? Like we kind of talked about that last time. Alice was going to review it. Can you just give a recap for me? I'm missing kind of where we stand and where our purview is with that, please. I'm sorry. I know you want to move on.
Yeah, and I'm gonna let Todd take this one.
So I had a chance to preview Allison's memorandum, which he's going to submit to the commission later on, but it's fairly clear in state law that because the public schools are basically a separate government entity, this state law grants them the authority to basically regulate things like discrimination that happens within the schools. And it is not within the purview of a local municipal government to regulate another state agency. And there's, her memorandum is very complete. It includes case data to back that up. And so, yeah, so that's important, but she'll present that. I don't want to speak to it too much without, at the risk of misquoting something, but that's forthcoming. But yeah, it does not look like we do have jurisdiction in that regard.
So does that mean that it will be removed from our ordinance?
It would mean likely, this is just what I'm assuming, is that we would stipulate that it's private education rather than public, which is what has been the narrative for a long time. It's just that we've never had the documentation to understand why that was the case. And so that's what we've been working on.
Yeah. So that is, so in the ordinance, it already says private education. It does not say private education.
It says education, which is why we brought it up, because it's misleading to the public and to me, for that matter.
Okay, that is good to know, because I think I'm mixing it up with your report, Ty. We always say the protected class is private education, but officially in the ordinance, you're saying it just says education. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for specifying for me as well. Okay, so on to the UVA student health, or student return and community health. I'm not sure who suggested this to be on the agenda. So if Miss Ann, if you would like to speak to and open it up for us.
Okay, I just mentioned it last month as a concern that many people have for the students coming back. I think the university is trying to handle it in a way that they hope things will be safe. But if any of you listen to the news, there was one identified case of COVID in the law school. You also know that University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill has closed down because of clusters of 100, I forgot how many students, but it's well over 100. And I just think that it's just a concern for a lot of the population in Charlottesville, and especially the older seniors in the community or anyone who has any health issues. So right now, we're just going to have to wait and see what the university is going to do. Because I could suggest that we write a letter, but they're scheduled to open a couple of weeks from now for students to come back. And we'll just have, it's a wait and see thing.
So
but it is a concern.
Can I speak?
Yes, go ahead, Catherine.
Yeah. It's actually would not be inappropriate to send a letter because what President Ryan has said is that a final decision will be made by August 28th. Okay. So they have clearly left open the possibility of pivoting and telling undergraduates at least. So the graduate students are already here. They're starting next week. Professional students like the nursing students and the medical students, the law, they've already started. But the bulk of the undergraduates were asked to delay their arrival for 2 weeks, and their courses are online for the first 2 weeks. And a decision has not been made about what will happen for the rest of the semester. So we do have a moment if we moved very quickly to say, as a Human Rights Commission thinking about the health of our community, we are concerned.
I would also say that because the mayor has already spoken about her concerns for the same thing. So they know, I think those in power at the university know how a lot of community members feel. But, you know, a letter would be good, but if we don't have time, you know, just, you know, they will know how we feel.
I would be okay with a letter.
Are there, I would love a letter too. Catherine, I can see that you are in your office. I'm not gonna, I don't know if there are any volunteers to help us get the scaffolding up for that. I also don't know who the letter would directly need to be sent to. So I guess
Jim Ryan.
Just directly to Jim Ryan, okay.
Who else? He's the, I mean, we can send it to the Board of Visitors. Right?
Yeah, I would copy. Is there an existing letter or template that you have seen that we could mirror, appropriately mirror, just so that we're not writing from scratch necessarily just for the sake of speed?
Okay.
I haven't seen anything, but well, no, I haven't seen anything. Honestly, I think that it's a pretty straightforward letter.
Mm-hmm.
Like bringing 10,000 bodies to this small town poses a risk. And we're seeing it at the universities that have already opened.
Mm-hmm.
DCU has 25 cases in the first week.
I'm sorry, I'm just doing a little Googling just to see if there is something out there.
Yeah, I would hope somebody could, I mean, it's easy to write that kind of a letter, but make some connection to the Human Rights Commission and what we're all about, so that they're going, okay, why did they write to us?
And then Laura, I see your hand up, Laura Kepley, sorry. And Jessica, I don't know if your hand had been up the whole time.
I think Jessica, yours was up. Yours is up first.
Oh, she
I didn't lower it.
Yeah.
Okay. I wanted to ask sort of what we wanted to highlight in a letter, if it's general presence of the students or if it's university accountability to hold them more accountable for lack of social distancing. I mean, students are already back, like they're already here. And so I guess, what do we want to ask the university to do about it?
I would like to ask the university to not have the undergraduate students return in person. So they can't control what the students who don't live in dorms do. Some of them are back, but honestly, they're not all back, or we'd see even more people than we see right now here.
Yeah.
I mean, Jim Ryan has said he doesn't want to bring the students back if he doesn't think they're going to be able to stay for the whole semester. I mean, the semester's already ending early in September. Classes are already online for the first 2 weeks. You know, this is putting the staff of the university at risk. It's putting the residents of the city at risk.
Chantel.
Sorry, I'm sorry, Miss Ann. I was going back and forth from the agenda. Go ahead.
I would be willing to draft a letter and then I'll send it to you.
Okay, that I would greatly appreciate that.
Okay,
And
I'll do that. And also hearing what Catherine has said tonight. And I know the students are back, but I'm thinking about the undergraduates, to me, will probably be, and living in dorms. So I will definitely, I'll draft a letter tomorrow and I'll get it to you.
Great. If there aren't any other stronger comments around there, like obviously against sending the letter, it sounds like we're all kind of in consensus. People are silently nodding. So thank you, Miss Ann, for doing that. I'm gonna move us to the second point, which is also Miss Ann, you brought up, and I think a lot of us were feeling it today actually about the HRC meeting time. And if we, obviously we wouldn't vote on it, well, we could if we wanted to, but you know, maybe moving this to 6:30. Also, Sue, your hand shot up, and I don't know when it did, but
it wanted to speak to this.
Okay. All right, so go ahead.
It did want to speak to this. And now I recognize tonight was an anomaly with Mayor Walker with us. So we went way over whatever we would normally have done, although probably not all that much over. But 6:30 would be a much more manageable time, I think. I'm thinking of maybe even people who work, there are people who are actually working in a space and may not be able to get to a 6 o'clock meeting. I have other meetings where I keep hearing not at 6, I get off and I can't get to a meeting, even Zoom on to a meeting. 6:30 at least gives me a little longer, I could actually fix myself something to eat. You know, I am governed by my stomach. And I could even have a bowl of popcorn in advance. But 6:30, 6 o'clock is just an unseemly hour from my perspective. It just makes no sense. And I've noticed sometimes we do have people snacking while we're in the middle of the meeting. I'd much rather be able to eat a little bit beforehand and something afterwards than try to eat during.
Yeah.
So I'm in favor of 6:30.
Thank you, Sue. Well, it definitely is different when we're not meeting in person. I know that I kind of miss Todd's snacks and refreshments, so we get into an HRC meeting and we don't get that stuff anymore. So we got to take care of ourselves. So I hear that. Laura, Miss Ann, I'm sorry. Laura actually had her hand up, and then you go ahead and speak to that.
Oh, yeah. This is like public meeting. I'll just say first, my pronouns are they, them, and their. I'm announcing this at a public meeting, but there we go. If we do go to a 6:30, we want to keep the 2-hour meeting. I think we need to be prepared to like let people go at 8:30. Right now we're past 8 and I haven't seen anybody drop off. And my experience with HRC meetings is that they always go over. I don't think I've ever been to one where we like, oh, now we're wrapping up at 2 hours. So I think we need to find, if we shift it later, we can't shift everything later. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, Laura. Also, thank you for bringing back up pronouns. I do want to remind folks that so one thing that we could do is you can edit your name to go ahead and show your preferred pronouns. That'll help to keep track. And also, we have never actually discussed pronouns in general. And I think it's very, it's actually appropriate considering that we're updating our ordinance, and that is a key reason why. So we can get into that practice of calling people by their preferred pronouns. I greatly appreciate it. And Laura, I apologize for assuming what yours is. I usually am a little bit more better about that. So I do apologize. Miss Ann, you had your hand up.
Yes, I was wondering if I could offer a motion that we change our meeting time to 6:30 and try to keep it. I know the city has, I forgot if it's city manager's office or someone has said that meetings of boards and commissions can only go for 2 hours. So no matter what we start time, if it's 6:30, then we would end at 8:30 and try to get as much done during that time. And yes, we may go over a little bit, but we had other people that we needed to hear today, such as Mayor Walker. So I would like to offer a motion that we change our meeting time to 6:30.
I will second that.
Can we do that without the asterisk?
What?
I'll second it, and then we can have discussion.
Yeah.
But I thought we had to, okay, never mind.
Yes, so the motion is on the table, and I'm going to open up for discussion. So Rob has his hand up.
Sorry, I don't know what happened to my video, but if you can hear me. I just think if you think we're going to stick to a 2-hour schedule whenever, I mean, we're public servants, I think meetings should go on as long as they have to, and as long as they should, and as long as any public comment allows. That's part of the public servant, whether we start at 6 and it's 8:15, and we start at 7 and it's 9:15, or we start at 5 o'clock and we go to 10. I mean, we're public servants. I do not understand the time crunch. This is a public service. We signed up for this. If 2 hours is too much of your time once a month, too bad. If 5 hours of your time is too much every month, too bad. Like, I have honestly been at a church meeting, my church's governance council, where they started at 7. I left at 11 p.m. They didn't leave till 3 p.m. or 3 a.m. Sorry. So they went from 7 p.m. to 3 a.m. I mean, this is public service. You sign up, you get the job done. Like, if you expect to just check in and check out, this is not the job. This is not the job. This is not the appointment to you. Meetings go for as long as they should. Meetings go for as long as they have to be. We are dealing with stuff that is important, stuff that should be talked about for as long as necessary. And if you feel time crunched for 2 hours, sorry, get out of here. This is important stuff, as much as it can be being the sausage made. Yeah.
Okay, thank you for that. Andy, your hand shot up, so go ahead.
Yeah, I'll respectfully disagree. I think it's healthy to have boundaries and to have a clear agenda of what you're doing and what you hope to accomplish. I don't think dragging meetings on for 7-8 hours accomplishes anything personally. So I would much rather see a clear agenda, clearly defined meeting, so that everybody can go in with good expectations. So that's my 2 cents. Thanks.
Thank you, Andy. Laura, go ahead.
I was going to respectfully disagree as well, just because I think we're all human beings. Like, I've been fighting some incredible neck pain right now, and I'm just trying to stay focused on the work. I know that lots of other people have family stuff, life stuff comes up. We're here for what we can. we can't be for what we can't. And I think that everybody here has not signed up for just a 2-hour meeting, and everybody else shows up for much more than that. So I am grateful to my coworkers, colleagues on the commission for all the work that they do. And I think that everybody shows up for exactly what we can.
Thanks, Laura. Jessica, Sue, you also had your hand up, and I'm not sure if this, okay.
Yeah, I did. I just wanted to clarify what we're voting on. The discussion is to start the meetings at 6:30. I think the 2-hour limit was something that came through the city, and I am absolutely not bound by that.
Mhm.
I just want that to be clear. It's the starting of the meeting that I'm more concerned about. And so I'm in favor of starting at 6:30. If the motion indicated that we had to stop after 2 hours, then I wouldn't agree with the motion. But I don't know that it said that.
Okay. That is correct in terms of the motion that's currently on the table. And then Jessica, you also had your hands up. And if you all don't mind, then Anne, we'll go to you, and then try to, close out discussion to bring the vote up, if that's okay.
I was just going to, for
Oh,
clarification.
sorry, Jessica, do you not have your hand? I'm so sorry, Miss Anne.
No,
I do.
Okay.
No, I just wanted to add to this. I appreciate moving the time back to 6:30. Like, I have 2 little minions that you guys have not purposely seen because I have someone that's watching them for this period of time. But I'm committed to however long we need to be here, but also because I have someone watching my kids, it's nice to be able to give them a time frame from how long that we're going to be here. And I just want to, because I am so new to the commission, I didn't realize how long these would be. But I also think we have to be mindful that the depth of the depth of what we're talking about just does take a long time. And this is the only time that we're able to convene because of the restrictions of commissioners. And so I just wanted to add that as part of the discussion. So thank you.
Thank you. Miss Anne.
Oh, I just want to clarify my motion. I move that we start at 6:30 p.m. and that's it.
Thank you. Rob, we'll let you have the last word, if you will.
Yeah, I really think it's important that unless someone wants to be the bad guy and really wants to check people's comments during this period, it's going to be hard to keep this meeting at 2 hours. It's going to keep any meeting, any council meeting, any board meeting within their frame of reference, unless it's really boring. Unless you guys want to, unless we have a ton of people coming into the towing advisory board meeting.
Okay.
Right off the rest of your evening for these evenings. It's once a month. It's public service.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks, Rob. Okay. So just a couple things. I just want to re-clarify that the motion that's currently on the table is for starting at 6:30. In terms of the hour limit, which is now 8:19, how long our meetings go for is not at this commission's discretion. And if I am going to make a couple of assumptions, it's kind of embedded in my own opinion. It probably has a lot to do with the pandemic, and we now require staff help other than Todd. So Joe Rice is on this line to actually put this meeting up and have it publicly available. And so there are some staffing constraints within the city to be able to do that for every single commission and every board, which is also part of the reason why we're actually only allowed to meet virtually once a month. Again, if this was not the pandemic, and this is me making a lot of assumptions in my own observations, we will sit in city space for as long as we need to sit in city space for. I don't think anyone on the commission has any, quorums with if we're going to go through our agenda today and what time we end, which is usually around the 2.5 hour mark for the most part, 2 hour mark is the time that we end. And that's just what it is, Rob. I don't want us to get sidetracked with talking about the time limit, especially because we may not have all the control that we want to. And Joe is graciously staying on here after the time. So we just need to be a little bit flexible if that's okay. So with that, Jessica, I do see your hand up. I apologize. I am going to go ahead and close the discussion and then ask Todd for us to run the vote.
Chantel, we didn't have a second to the motion.
There were Andy did second.
Okay, I'm sorry.
And then Sue third the motion if we want to get specific. Todd, if you could go ahead.
Oh, hope we're not losing Sue. I'm going to start with Sue. You're going to abstain unless you need to break a tie, correct, Chantel?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Go ahead, Sue. Can you say again? Your audio broke up on my end.
Of course it did, because it's breaking up on mine too. Yes.
And while I've got you, can you tell me whether or not you approved the minutes? Because we also missed your vote on that.
Oh, yes.
Okay, thank you. Sorry to
All
backtrack.
15 pages of them.
Sorry about that. Jeanette?
Yes.
Ernest?
Yes.
Jessica?
Yes.
Laura?
Yes.
Catherine?
No.
Andy?
Yes.
Anne?
Yes.
Lindell is, oh, you're still there. Lindell?
No.
No? And Rob?
Yes, I approve.
Okay, so that is 8 approved, 2 no.
All right. So it has been passed to have our meeting at 6:30 with 8 approving, 8 yes and 2 no, and 0 abstain. Well, I guess mine is an abstention, but I'm not going to say that. So Lindell has to go. So bye, Lindell. We really appreciate you.
Sorry. Bye.
See ya. I'm getting a little tired, y'all. I'm sorry. I know that I'm starting to get a little gritty. So I'm going to apologize for my tone of voice. But I'm going to go ahead and move us on to the voting rights and discussion, because that's really, really important. I do want to say, Todd, your report is here. I don't have much of a chair update. And we already did the ad hoc committee update. So, you know, I think this will probably be our last business matters thing, unless people are not in agreement with that. And Todd, you did a really great job with the report. So you could have all night to walk us through. Okay, is that okay with folks if you just read and digest, Todd? Okay, awesome. So I put the voting rights discussion on the agenda because we need it to be there, and I'm gonna say thank you to Catherine and Andy on Twitter. We're going back and forth about what are the resources that our community has. I know that City Council passed some things on Monday about where early voting would take place. And really, I was just hoping we could have a discussion about how the Human Rights Commission could support it, being in a campaign, and just remembering to push that information out there. We could, if that's what feels right for folks, we could also maybe get a little bit aggressive. I signed up to actually do a voter registration training. I don't think that needs to be, a requirement, but those are just the things that we could do just to support our community in this time, and really make sure that people are able to have that access to flex their rights. So really want to open that up for discussion and see if we can just get some things moving around the voting rights or supporting the cities, our city in doing this work?
I mean, I think there's a lot of work going on right now around that. I mean, when you say voting rights, I'm not quite sure. You're just talking about voter registration and restoration of rights and getting the information out?
Yeah.
Yeah. So there are flyers being put on people's doors. You know, we can't really canvass in the COVID world, but we can go door to door and put information on the door. You know, we're not knocking and interacting. And so there is information going out to all the precincts that has the voting information and restoration of rights, and folks could easily join that effort.
Thanks, Catherine. Yeah, I think that's a good example. I also think it could be something as easy as us knowing all of the organizations we may be attached to, and just making sure that, you know, we're resharing information across different social medias, and keeping that stuff up, because people do forget. And sometimes we may think that folks, you know, have access or received a certain flyer and they may not have. So just being able to push and kind of flood the airways, if that's something that we are interested in doing, is kind of what I'm thinking. Not like us, I don't know what other people are thinking when I said voting rights. I'm not thinking we're like writing a bill or anything like that. Just kind of getting the word out there and supporting the word. Jessica put in the chat that she knows she hasn't received any flyers, and she's happy to amplify the resources in the community. And Sue's audio has totally given up. Sorry, Sue. All right. Are there any other, how are other folks feeling? Jeanette has been standing for a while, so I'm just like, I should be standing up too.
Bothering you?
No, I want to be standing.
Yeah. I agree. I think it's really important to promote voting, but something that we each do individually. I don't think there's been any cases of mail box or mail delivery alteration, or we're not like having any of our precincts closed or anything, right? It seems like none of those actions are happening here. Yeah, does anyone know about that? Yeah, and I think those are the things that, as a Human Rights Commission, we could take a collective action on if those kinds of actions were being taken.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, there are things that we could do that aren't relevant, you know, immediately to this election because we can't implement them. But there's certainly, we are one of the worst states for restoration of voting rights. We could be pushing to make that, you know, change the legislation around that, for example.
Okay, that could be something that's, Catherine, that you say that is on the legislative agenda. Sorry, my voice is giving out. On the legislative agenda work. So Todd can share a little bit more about that and the timeline.
Yeah, I just actually asked Kina about that, and we probably want to put that on our agenda for our next meeting, because it sounds like they start meeting with people coming up quickly. So we should do that.
Thank you for thinking about that. That sounds like an amazing idea. I know we have a couple other things to add to that. So perhaps we're just starting a Google Doc for the legislative work, and, you know, remembering to add those things. So we got some ideas around flyering, just, you know, sharing as much as we can, like individually, through our networks, information that we are receiving around early voting. I know people can vote in person at the voter registration place downtown. Any other comments around what we could potentially do, or?
Oh, am I on?
Yeah.
stupid system. um, um, I I did put a thing in the chat. The only thing I can think of that we could speak to would be making sure that all the various disabilities, that those people have access to the registration offices, to, you know, many people don't have online capability. I think I have no problem being aware of some of those difficulties that that particular population, which we are charged with protecting, have access to all of the ways that able-bodied voters have. How I can put it that way.
Yeah. Thank you, Sue. I think that's a really great point. Catherine, thanks for putting that in the chat box. Some things I'll do. So the UVA Equity Center is also interested in supporting residents in any way that they can. They just want, you know, some feedback and recommendations around that, what the best, you know, avenue is for this point in time. I don't feel like I have anything concrete in terms of a recommendation, but I can share with them at least some of the things that this commission is thinking about doing, and maybe opening up the conversation for how they could, you know, support our efforts. If it's getting, helping to get a team of students that can virtually monitor different social media platforms and share things out, kind of do that virtual type organizing, things like that. I'm just spitballing ideas. I don't know if this is actually possible, but things like that.
I think that we need more like actual physical paper, like getting information to people's doors.
Okay.
I'm not sure the folks who are, you know, most likely to be not registered to vote or need rights restored are super active in social media channels.
Okay. So
necessarily, right?
No, I agree. So one suggestion then could be, and Jessica, I see your hand, could be if there are students that could safely and smartly, you know, do some flyering, some door-to-door flyering, that could be up.
Yeah, you don't have to knock, you don't have to talk to people, just leave it on the door.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jessica, you wanna?
I just want to bring up an issue when it comes to if you're wanting to do mail-in votes. Some of these forms require printing online. And I know when I was trying to do early voting, I was having issue with the system, and it was like asking me to print, even though like it fixed it, but I was in a position where I didn't have a printer at home. And so I wonder if we could help provide services like that it's just access. If they don't have computers, if they're not able to print, if we can provide them applications, just being a venue to help give them access that they're limited with their at-home capabilities.
Okay. Could you explain that a little bit more?
Yeah, so there's a form online that you can submit to do an absentee mail-in valid. And if you have an appropriate driver's license, you can put in your information online. I was having an error when I was initially doing it, that I was putting in the information and it was still telling me to print it out. I had to like log off, like get out of there and like come back in, and it was fine. But if people are getting into those issues where they're not able to actually print their absentee application for whatever reason, if they don't have a driver's license or whatever reason that they're not able to fill it in online, can we provide support?
I'm wondering if this is something Virginia Organizing is already on top of doing. I haven't spoken with them directly, so I don't know how robust their work is. To put in the League of Women Voters is all over these issues, so that's a potential another ally. Just want to voice that just because one or two organizations aren't doing it doesn't mean we can't help out. So, but we'll definitely reach out to those. If people have other folks that could potentially be reached out to, please let me know. I'm like kind of just going to go ahead and designate myself, and if anyone else wants to help me out with it, but I would like to coordinate the voting stuff, and I'll reach out to some organizations. Catherine has already shared a couple with me, and has put some things in the chat box as well.
I want to help in any way that I can with you, Chantel.
Awesome. Are there any other volunteers? Otherwise, me and Jessica can take it on the project. Awesome. Okay. If there are no other comments there, I'm gonna go ahead and move us to our matters by the public. If there are any. Okay, so we have one hand.
Has his hand raised. I'm gonna go ahead and give him.
Yeah, sorry, I meant to open the
speak.
matters by the public session.
Okay.
And Mr. Rice has gone ahead and put the 3-minute clock on there. Raw, I don't know if you can see it or not. I don't know how you're joining. It looks like you may be online. So.
Yeah, I'm online, so I see it.
Okay, you're on. Good.
Hello?
Yep.
Is it Matters by the Public?
Yes, sir, it is.
Oh, awesome. Thanks for the opportunity to speak. I was really, really happy to hear Mayor Walker today talk about plans and ideas. And even in the interim, she went out of her way to discuss the possibility that the Human Rights Commission could start to look at housing discrimination in Charlottesville. She talked about the vouchers being given out and then people being discriminated against. And I think that's something that you could get rolling on right now, even, you know, as you're waiting for some of these hires to happen. And along those lines, I really encourage you to look into getting into an agreement with HUD for an FHAP agreement, and they'll deputize you and allow you to and actually pay you for doing some of those investigations. The larger question I wanted to ask was, you had received and council had received a list of 9 recommendations for getting the Human Rights Commission sort of back on track with its original intentions. And I'm wondering, could you just update which of those nine recommendations the Human Rights Commission has discussed and voted to support?
All right. Thanks, Walt. I don't know if that, I guess you have about a minute and 30 seconds. I don't know if you want to keep talking, but I'm gonna go ahead and open it up. I'll answer your question. So in the packet, you'll see those 9 recommendations. Some of them were referring to the position description. Some of them were referring to the ordinance. I don't have them in front of me. I will say that some of those recommendations were taken into deep consideration and integrated. Some of them had said that they referred to the ordinance and needed an ordinance change, and we had Allison Davies review that, and some of the things that were designated for ordinance actually didn't require ordinance change. So again, I don't have all 9 in front of me. We really do appreciate all of the support and just feedback we've gotten. I feel like if I had to ballpark it, I think about 6 out of 9 or something like that. We're integrated, and you know, some of them were slightly shifted just because of the laws and things like that. So if there are other, if Walt's hand is back up, and so Walt, you can go ahead and I guess respond to what I'm saying.
Okay, I think I had a minute and a half left.
You do.
Yeah. So I thanks for the general response, Chantel. But I think we really need to know exactly, you know, sort of in an itemized way, which ones of those are being forwarded on and which ones are being ignored. It's kind of important, and I don't know how to kind of wrap my mind around it or get through it. Is there a way that you could that you or Todd could just prepare a quick response memo to that letter and indicate which ones have been supported by the commission and which ones have been rejected by the commission? Because it's just not clear. I've been listening to meetings on and off now for the last couple of months, and it's still not clear to me which ones you support and which ones you don't support. Like I heard today that you're not willing to reduce the size of the commission. It sounded like today that you're not willing to put subject matter experts in roles on the commission. So I'm just really not clear, you know, and I can't sort of figure out which way to go in terms of public action if I don't understand exactly where the Human Rights Commission stands on those recommendations.
Cool. Thanks, Walt. That makes a lot of sense. Jeanette, I'm sorry. I think we may need to work together on that because you're chairing the ad hoc committee and kind of working to get those things.
Yeah, I was typing that I would be happy to draft that.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And Walt, thanks for always being here and putting pressure on us. I appreciate it. So are there other folks that would like to comment or have any response to Walt? Todd and Ann, your hand, at least on my screen, went up exactly at the same time.
I'll let Ann go first.
Okay.
Oh, thank you, Todd. Mr. Haneke, I am still waiting for the names of the people that you listed by their organizations, and I have not received that yet.
Thank you, Ms. Ann. Todd, do you want to go ahead and respond? And then Catherine Lon is up on deck.
I'll be very brief. So just to respond to Walt's first comment about housing investigations, we actually in discussions with Allison Davies kind of uncovered that, in fact, the Office of Human Rights does in fact have general authority to investigate housing discrimination, which is not what I had understood it to be in the past. If you do know people who are experiencing housing discrimination, please send them our way, especially around vouchers. While it's not yet included as an amendment source of funds in the ordinance as a protected class, it's going to be included or proposed to be included in the ordinance in the future. But in the meantime, please direct people to call the office, call me, because we can do housing investigations. We don't actually need, like the EEOC for certain employment investigations, we don't actually need HUD approval to do housing investigations locally. So just wanted to make that clear, and please refer people over if you know of anyone.
Thank you, Todd. Go ahead, Catherine, and then Sue, you'll go up after Catherine.
I was just not really responding, but saying that I would be willing to work on taking a look at those recommendations and helping to organize some responses to them.
Thank you, Catherine. So Jeanette, maybe you, myself, and Catherine, that'll be reviewing that. Go ahead, Sue.
Yeah, if Walt was listening, he knows that many of the things that were on his list are things that are in fact being discussed by the ordinance ad hoc group, and we will be looking at it. Not just because, and I'm just going to say this, just because that was their list of 9 things that they wanted us to do does not mean that we have to do them. We need to we've discussed some of them, we haven't discussed all of them. The ones we haven't discussed are part of the ordinance change, things that we are currently working on. That's all I want to say.
Thank you, Sue. Catherine, I don't know if your hand went back up or if you just didn't lower it. Okay, great. So just so I'm clear on this, it's myself, Jeanette, and Catherine that are going to prepare the response, just given all the work that we've done. And I do think that that's a fair request and ask. I shouldn't even have to say that, but thanks, Walt, for asking for that. It's part of just like public conversation and working back and forth. And
is that a 3-person entity that needs to be noticed? I get freaky when more than 2 people from the commission are sitting down and going over things.
Oh, okay. So let me clarify. I don't think this requires us to meet in person. I just want, Jeanette to know if she's creating a document, she can share it out with Catherine and I. Also Todd, just so we're able to, collaborate on it, and then we will share it out officially with all of the commission. does that make better sense? I just meant like Jeanette has a
No,
specific.
I'm concerned because emails between more than 2 commissioners are public records.
Yeah.
Emails between 2 commissioners are public records. They're all public records.
But 3, it runs into something else. Anyway, that's just my concern.
Okay.
I'll trust Todd and you to figure that out.
Thank you, Sue. If there are no more comments from this commission and no more matters by the public, which I don't see any hands raised, I'm gonna go ahead and move us to close the public comment session. I think we got to everything that Wal had raised, and we'll be in communication with you. The last thing on our agenda, any announcements by any commissioners? No announcements.
I have an announcement.
Oh, sorry, Jeanette.
That's okay. We haven't publicized this yet, but Cultivate Charlottesville, the organization for whom I work, will be hosting a uprooting racism training that will be open to the public. It will be a virtual training by Soulfire Farm on November 19th from 1 to 4 p.m. And there's pre-work and post-work. So that information will be going out, but I just wanted to let everyone know that that's happening, and it's just for the Charlottesville community. So we're hoping to have a lot of folks engaged.
Thank you, Jeanette. I second that. Please think about enrolling in the Soulfire Farm racial equity training, not racial equity training, racism, anti-racism training. All right. Well, if there are no more commissioner updates, I'm just going to share a little bit of gratitude for you guys for sticking on. I think this meeting was a lot. We had to go off and come back on. But we got a lot done. So.
Gold stars to all of us.
Thanks, y'all. And also thanks to Mr. Rice for staying on. We really appreciate you helping to run these meetings. So if it's all right with everyone, which I think it's okay, I'm going to move to join the meeting. It's 8:48 p.m.
Thanks for your leadership, Chantel.
Thanks, guys. Have a good
Thank
night.
you. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Chantal. Thank you, Joe.
Good night, everybody.
Hey, thanks, Todd. Thanks, Chantel.
Thanks, Todd.
Bye.
Chantel.